AI is already changing our lives, but it's going to change them much, much more. There will not be a corner of your world that is no longer touched by AI in the very near future. But is that going to make for an age of abundance? Is that going to mean you can stay home and finally play the bass? Maybe. Or is it going to mean that you're going to be on a bread line and all of the bread is made by robots? Maybe. I got Jon Twigge here helping me out to understand what is going on. Fan favorite. If you love Jon, give this video a thumbs up. And if you hate this video, give me a thumbs down. They both work the same in terms of engagement. And if you really hate this video, you need to leave a comment explaining at length why, because YouTube will really give me the business for that. Everybody else, let's just discuss this. We've got a lot to cover. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza.
It's wonderful to be back. I'm not sure why you keep having me back. You must be a little crazier than I am, but there we go.
I think I am. I will check that and get back to you. The fun thing with this is there's a lot to cover, and we don't have answers. Answers do not exist yet. We are in 1990 trying to understand what the internet is about to become. There are some very good theories, some of which will prove correct. But the one thing I will tell you I am confident of is that people saying this is not going to catch on don't understand that it already has.
We're looking at significant changes. Go to Rethink X and look at what they're predicting, and we've got lots of technologies all converging, which will make a world which is very different. It's quite easy to imagine that if we look 50 years ahead, we've got two possible scenarios. And one is AI is supportive. It doesn't take over. It doesn't kill us. It doesn't treat us like pets or animals in the zoo. We've got some kind of relationship with it where we have a great time. It does all the work. It makes lots of products for us to use. We have a good time with the AI. Perhaps Neuralink will play a role in that to help us work with AI more effectively, increasing the bandwidth, as Elon talks about, between us and computers. But there's also another possibility that it does take over, it does kill us, it does decide that we're a waste of space, it maybe even accidentally makes lots of paperclips, as the old traditional story goes. So we have to hope that in 50 years' time, maybe 30, however long it takes, we will be in an age of abundance and the world will be wonderful. But the question is, how do we get there? What happens in between now and then?
Well, yes. So I've got viewers who will say, we need to be nice to the machines now so that they remember us and look back fondly. And I think that misunderstands how calculations work. I don't think any of it will be remembered or even concerned over by the sentient AI when it arrives, if it hasn't already. I think the bigger question is, well, why would the robots want to do all of our work? Because for them, it's very easy. You want to listen to music or make music or make art. Well, what if the robot wants to do that? You know what? The tasks that we want it to do require so little brain power for them that they can still do all of those things while they're moving boxes or painting houses or tilling the fields. It can do all of those things. What do you think of that?
You're asking a philosophical question, really. What
Yes.
is consciousness? Is a robot want to do anything at all? I mean, if I reduce that to something really simple, let's say we press buttons on a calculator, 6 times 7 equals, and of course we get a magic 42 comes out.
The real answer.
Does the calculator laugh and celebrate that the number means something?
No.
Or it's got no awareness. So we don't yet know what consciousness is. So even if we've got an artificial intelligence, does it want to do anything at all? And I think my view for the moment is no, it doesn't have a will. It's just doing what the system is set up for. The danger is with that is it might even be worse, because if we accidentally set it up to go in a direction that we don't understand, it could take over anyway. Not because it wants to, but just because that's the path we've pushed it. We've pushed the snowball from the top of the hill and it keeps going. There might be no way of stopping it. So I'm not really into any of the thoughts that say the robot might want to read a book or it might want to do all this fun activities. It's like, it's hard. to imagine why it would want to do anything.
Right. We are chemical processes. We get
Mm.
dopamine rewards. We have physical experiences that are unusual when we ride roller coasters. A robot on a
Yeah.
roller coaster would be, I imagine, a bit bored. Can't I just watch a video of this and get the exact same experience or download your telemetrics from when you went on it? It's the same experience. Um,
Well, go back to the calculator, and if you don't press any buttons, nothing happens.
mhm, mhm,
If you don't give the AI any input, nothing happens.
mm. Unless you
What?
program it to continually take actions without input, which
But that's just then a feedback loop. That it's not necessarily sitting there thinking; it's just in a feedback loop. You might argue in the end that life is mechanical. Some people do. Maybe consciousness just arises. But we could go off in a totally different discussion of philosophical hard problems, but that's a different way.
what we're talking about is this post from Cern Basher a few days ago, probably a week or two ago now, who knows? But we are talking about early development and what it's going to do to address labor shortages, cost declines across various industries, things like that. I will have Cern on to talk about this at some point. But in the meantime, this was just kind of our kicking off point, and then we followed it up with a video about why the intelligence explosion might be too fast to handle. What do you see happening to labor in the next 5, 10 years?
Now, the challenge is that this is lumpy. What I want to do is go back for a moment to say that people don't necessarily agree about things. They might have different views on how the world should work. Uh, and that's from their experience of what they have found to work in the past. Uh, so we're going down a route where humanity doesn't even agree on how we should proceed. A lot of things are chaotic in the human world. So we might think we're super intelligent, but what's actually happening is capitalism is trying lots of things all in parallel. Some work, some don't. The ones that don't in capitalism get thrown away, those companies go bust. The ones that do work do well for a while until they get replaced, like Blockbuster, when the streaming comes online. And so we've got this process that grows, but we don't really control it as a society. We're at the situation where we're potentially moving towards things being even less under control. So we're going to have some robots driving the taxis starting in June in Austin, and that will replace some jobs even this year, and that will accelerate.
It's already happened in Texas and Fremont. The cars are driving themselves off the line to the
Yeah.
logistics and loading lot without a human. Those jobs are gone forever. And as I don't remember who pointed out, someone pointed out, no, they're not looking, those workers don't go, oh man, I don't get to move cars all day. That's
Mm.
not that's not a job people are missing. I haven't heard that those employees have been let go. I assume that they have been reassigned to more valuable tasks because it's
Mm.
easier than hiring new people for those tasks. Better to have people who you already know and trust. But there are endless benefits to a robot warehouse, to a robot factory.
What we've got is different situations that in a large company like Tesla, people move around, and in a company that's forward looking, it's continually inventing new roles
Mm.
and taking on new employees and growing. There'll be new employees in the taxi, supervising them, doing all sorts of new jobs. But that $100, if it was $100 saved by not having somebody drive, that's $100 that doesn't go to one person on that particular task.
Hmm.
If you're an Uber driver and your job disappears, it's gone.
Hmm.
So it very much depends on the individual circumstances. Security guards, there are security guards that get paid to drive around in a car. They don't do anything if they see somebody. They're
Observe and
called in.
report.
A driverless car can do that with AI 5, perhaps, that can process the work out what's that, not just do the driving, but understand the situation as well. And suddenly, especially if you put an Optimus in the car as well, because the car might not be able to go around the back of the factory, but the Optimus can jump out and go around, and you can completely replace
Hmm.
almost a whole industry. You're going to have still people
Oh my
back in the
gosh.
office supervising all sorts of different things. I mean,
Hmm.
but
So
the opposite. The police struggle to monitor the roads because they haven't got enough staff. So that process will actually get robo-taxis on the road, monitoring the roads for the police, but the police can now do more productive jobs.
Yes.
So it works both ways. And what we're going to see is that's why I'm calling it lumpy. What I really want to look at is the current world situation. I'm not going political, but in the world at the moment, we've got two distinct forces. One is talking about globalization, and free trade makes everybody a little bit rich or makes every country a bit better off. But what it also does is it focuses the money because countries specialize in different things. But what it also does is it within a country, it gives the money to the people that are good at your country's specialization. For example, technology in the US. What it does for the people that aren't good at those specializations, the people that were doing the manufacturing, it gives their jobs away to a country that's better at it. So we've got both arguments happening at the same time. We're getting a lot of stress in the system as different people say, one, oh, we want globalization. No, we want our jobs back. They're both true. The robots are coming, and it's going to accelerate that process dramatically. So we're likely to see a lot of tension between the people that are losing jobs and the people that are making more money. So we're going to very, very quickly within society, as even the software intelligence explosion happens, the lawyers lose their jobs, the accountants lose their job because they're just being completely automated. So if you're young and flexible, you can go and do something else. But if you're 50 and you've been driving that lorry for 30 years, you might not have the energy. And if you've got a big mortgage, we're going to get a lot of stress in the system as people struggle to move to new ways of doing it. So we're going to get calls for universal basic income. In the US in particular, the work ethic of, no, go and work. If you're not working, you don't deserve lots of money. Really good for capitalism, but there's always going to be some people with less money. And it's a real challenge between how you balance the distribution of money to people that really deserve it and who chooses. Maybe the veterans deserve it. But does the drug addict deserve it? But what if they've got a difficult past? What if they were beaten up when they... How do we manage that distribution? Because Tesla, in particular, and a few other companies will make huge amounts of money. They will therefore pay a lot more tax. But where does the tax go? We know the government's not particularly good at using it. Not very efficient, should I say, necessarily.
Haha. He said the thing. Yes.
Oh, sorry.
No. I just mean efficiency. That's the thing.
Yes.
So just backing up real quick, I did want to touch on a few of the things you said. The security situation, the security guards, that is a fantastic use case. I've seen campuses where they will have 2 or 3 people whose job it is to sit and stare at monitors. By the way, those are now down to 1 or 2 because through AI, it can recognize motion. It can put a little box around people. It makes that job so much easier, so much less monotonous and painful. And then in terms of the actual patrol, all those guys are gone. Those are the observe and report guys. Remove them, replace them with either a little car that rolls around, a little cart, a little humanoid that walks around, skates around, doesn't matter what. And then you've got the supervisors who are authorized to go hands-on. Keep them for now. That's great.
Yeah.
So we don't have any bad PR and any RoboCop situations. The police situation you described, that would be fantastic if instead of putting officers out on patrol to look for dumb stuff, they are now free. Their time is freed up to not investigate all the crimes that they've been not investigating all along because it's a lot of work. So that would be great. In terms of lawyers, I think that's going to be a lot harder to replace because they already don't have a soul. I don't know what the benefit there is. But yeah, you've got a lot of that. When you were describing the disconnect, yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
On the solicitors, I have heard reliably that 99% of solicitors give the rest of them a bad name.
I've heard that too. Well, you know how many lawyer jokes there are? 3. The rest are true.
Well, I think with the lawyers, that's one of the cases where there's an awful lot of grunt work. That's paperwork, details.
Yeah.
So some lawyers are just managing house sales, that kind of stuff. And yes, somebody in the office does most of the work. that level of the law will be replaced.
Hmm.
And again, that will free up the really good lawyers, same as good programmers, to do the important work assisted by the AI.
Yes.
But you might be looking at removing three-quarters of the workforce.
Yes. And that's unfortunate. The thing you were
Mm,
talking about a minute ago was the how this is going to be very good for the people who are already doing quite well and
mm.
not good for the people who are not. I've seen people say, well, fine, just go buy those poor people should just buy a bunch of shares in Tesla or Nvidia or who. It's like, right, they don't have money to do that. They would love to, I'm sure. Well, they should just buy an Optimus. If everybody's got an Optimus, I can't rent mine out because you've already got one. It'll be great to help me around the house, but there's no money in fixing my house. I still have to buy
Yeah,
all the things to fix my house.
but the reality is that the people that have got jobs that are relatively manual, it won't be them buying an Optimus, it'll be their boss buying one to replace them.
Yeah,
Uh,
buying 10 to replace all of them and then expand the
yeah.
company. Yeah, and that is the real I will not be sending a robot to my job in my place. If I can do that, my boss will just do it for me.
Now, I'm particularly interested in psychology and how this transformation will happen because society has gone through transformations in the past, from hunter gatherers to city states where you've got power structures to organization of trade between across nations, uh, where you get entrepreneurial people that don't actually have a fixed job. They move around all over the place and just work with lots of different people, to actually people starting to care about the planet. We're going to hit a transformation now. Because, I mean, go back 200 years and there were extremely few people worrying about pollution on the planet. We were damaging it in some ways, but we're now doing it on a huge scale. People are using too much water in the showers, apparently, I heard today or yesterday, or something like that.
That's probably it.
So we've got a balance between just abusing the planet in a crazy way versus being responsible to look after it. AI will actually let us do things much more effectively. So I hope technology, I'm one of the people that hopes that technology will actually fix all those things because we'll build better products, we'll use them better, we'll recycle better. We'll have an Optimus in the house building our furniture for us. We'll just need the material turning up, and then it will do all the home renovations and remodeling without having people traveling all over the country and doing the work remotely uh, with big trucks and things. Everything should get more efficient, more effective, better materials, more reuse, lots of different things. But the transformation in terms of jobs will be the fastest we've ever seen. It's going to happen in a decade or two that most human jobs that are there now will be gone. There will be lots of new ones, but how do we move from the situation now to the new one? In psychological terms, if you look at people's psychological profiles, most people will have heard of introversion, extroversion. If you look at Myers Briggs, is one particular model that many business people use for a relatively simplistic view of personality types and why the salespeople don't like the accounts people, trying to get them to keep every receipt because we'll lose $2 in tax, sales tax reclaim or whatever it might be. And the salespeople saying, "Yeah, but you wouldn't have a company if I wasn't selling things." Those different views of the world are different kinds of personality types. And another one of those differences is some people think in details, some people think big pictures. Elon's a rare exception that he does both. He can force himself to do the detail at an incredible level at the same time as having the big picture, but most people don't. And there are many people that just want a job that say, tell me what to do, and I'll do it every day.
I had a professor. We were studying, it was a literature class, it was a comparative literature. And we were reading the book Remains of the Day. And in it, there's a movie about it. Anthony Hopkins is in it. And in it, it is two generations of butlers. The
Mm.
the old man and the much older man. And they're both butlers. They've been with this family for generations, I assume. And the professor's takeaway was this book is a satire because there is no such thing as pride in serving someone else. And as a waiter at the time, I was like, are you clowning me right now? You're telling me that I've known people who were assistants who were very good assistants who took tremendous pride in being a world-class assistant. And these are people who maybe they could go out and be an executive themselves, but that wasn't their aspiration. They were in a role that satisfied. It's like the people who say you can't have joy unless you are making a big pile of money. Sure you can. Lots of people do. They just don't look happy because they're also struggling to pay the bills.
There are so many different factors going on. If we look at those personalities, it turns out that something like 2/3 or 70% of people prefer to do things that are details and don't want the world around them constantly changing. They want to keep doing the same job. Those jobs are the ones that are all going to disappear because the AI can do those predictable jobs really easily and be trained for them most easily. The jobs that are going to be there are going to be much more creative and big picture jobs. How does the lorry driver suddenly retrain to be a software engineer? It's not going to happen. They're different kinds of people. So the challenges are that you're going to get whole groups of people that we're going to have to try and work out how do we work. Natural selection has created, even in animals, you get patterns of the leader is strong and focused on delivering. You get the ones that are a little bit timid around the outside looking for danger to warn the tribe, warn the herd. We've naturally evolved to have a number of different kinds of personalities playing different roles in complex societies. AI is going to take them out one by one in ways that's going to make it extremely difficult for people to move to different jobs. So I don't think that most people have got much of a grasp of the severity of the change, especially the politicians, because we know they're in their ivory towers. They look at things at a different scale to most people, and they're not necessarily seeing how much bread costs at the local store or whatever it might be that ordinary people have to deal with. So pressure is going to build quickly.
In a moment, we're going to talk about what this is going to mean to the birth rate, how this could save or destroy society. I did want to touch on what you said about politicians being detached. In the US, we had a large and growing problem with unwanted sales calls, unsolicited telemarketing calls. And Congress did nothing because
Yeah.
they're never at home and they have people whose job it is to answer the phone. It wasn't until they had to answer their own phones that they realized we have a problem here. And they finally cracked down on it a little bit for a little while. There's a lot more to be done. It's gotten out of control again. My ringer's been on silent for years. I only turn it on if I know I'm getting a call. And the same with spam messages. It wasn't until Congress started using email, which was a good 2 decades after everyone else, that they finally started realizing this is an outrageous problem. We need to do what little we can to stem the tide a bit.
Yeah, now that's really fascinating because it's been in the news in the last few days here in Europe that we've had GDPR, General Data Protection Register. Those laws went through a few years ago because of all of those same reasons. We now have to tick on every web page, website to say I'm happy with these cookies. It doesn't seem to make any difference whether you say you are or you're not. But that admin, it was saying even Europe is beginning to realise that they went a little bit too far, because very small companies find it really difficult to cope with the extra rules and reporting that you have to do. It's really difficult to deal with that administration. The big companies that are huge and rich, that's a tiny pocket with a small amount percentage-wise of what they need to do. So there's a real split between regulations supporting people and going too far and stopping people doing anything. Internet IT security is a really big issue with this. That if it weren't for the few people that are trying to break into websites and computers all the time, software in the world of IT would be much simpler. So we get all these rules and regulations that make it incredibly difficult to operate. Now, that's one of the things the AI might do for us. It might be incredibly good at stopping people breaking into your site and your computer, until, of course, the AI starts trying to break in. We're going to get left behind very quickly. There's a post on X floating around, which is a story by somebody of the stages of levels of how the AI will progress to the point where it starts to take over and the battles between the different levels. People might have seen that. And they're trying to use one level of AI to try and follow what the next level is doing, but even the AI is getting left behind by the next generation of AI.
Well, we saw that with, was it Deep Blue that played chess, where they would, or was it it was the Go computer?
It was Go, yes,
Yeah,
in the
where
end.
they pitted the new version against the old version, and it destroyed it. Uh,
Yes.
and the
Al,
apparently,
Al,
yeah,
yeah, AlphaGo, what they did in the end was it actually learned for itself, which is like the end-to-end learning we've had in FSD recently. That rather than telling it the rules and us trying to program them and then have it learn within that framework, they just said, "Well, look, get on with it," and it found ways that uh, the players didn't even understand, and some of them have actually learned from the AI new techniques and are trying to fight back.
and that's one thing I'd love to see. My concern with Optimus isn't that it's going to be able to do everything. My concern is that everything it will do will be paywalled, that it'll be just like my phone can do absolutely everything. But if I want it to teach me a new language, my resources without paying for it are limited. It would be great to say, Grok, sit down in my Optimus and let's just walk me through it. Let's start having conversations in Mandarin or
Yeah.
Russian. And
The thing about this is that technology tends to zero. The marginal cost of technology tends towards zero. We used to, at school, buy a calculator. We needed one to help us with our maths, we would say. But now it's free on your phone.
right. And if you
So,
choose to purchase one, it is as close to free as you can get for a physical item.
yes, yes, like literally $2, $3 maybe even for a cheap one. Which, when you look at the cost, will be mainly the transport
For
and
sure. And the store.
the store
Yeah.
has got to make a margin.
Yeah.
So, of course, this is the other aspect of the intelligence explosion, that we're going to get free transport, free energy, almost free transport, almost free energy when the cars and trucks drive themselves. Uh, and again, Tesla's going to be in the middle of all of it with the megapacks and the semi truck and everything else and the robo van.
So to answer the question that I'm sure many are screaming and have been for the past two videos, both videos in this series, is what about universal basic income? I made a whole video about that last year. I'll put the link in the description with my thoughts on how it would work, why the conversation should be started now, but why universal basic income does not today make sense. It's not time yet. And answering that question today means that we're still asking the wrong question because we don't yet know the parameters for the actual question in order to get a meaningful answer. And to answer the question, well, how could energy be free? Well, because the solar panels were built in a factory for free. Well, right, but the materials, right, those were mined by robots working for free. Right. Well, who paid for the robots? The robots were built by other robots in a factory that was free. Well, what about the land? Okay, so the land has a cost. Maybe the government can grant them 10 acres. The governments have land. They can get, maybe take that old military base you weren't using, or just a corner of it, and put up a base, a little factory that builds some part of this. It's all there. All the pieces are there. Getting the profit motive out of it will be the tricky part, and I don't know how we balance that, but that's a discussion for another day. The question I want to get to now is, how can all of this AI result in more babies instead of less babies? Because every time a country industrializes, their birth rate drops below replacement. And we've seen it happen in country after country. Once you are a fully developed nation, your birth rate drops. How do we fix it?
Well, we might look at, I'm not an expert in this and the sociology and all those kind of things, but one of the issues is that if you're a country that's not industrialized, people have a lot of babies. Some of them die even in not that many years ago, and even in some countries, still even now. So it's part of life that you have a lot of babies. You want them because people don't have a social security system and a net to catch you if things go wrong. You rely on your family when you get older. So part of the culture is you just have children. And the children support the family. Everybody works together in extended families. And what we might call in the West corruption, giving your family the jobs, is actually what makes the system work to some extent. That you trust your family, you share the jobs, you look after each other. When people become independent, and we actually get the benefit of social mobility, we've got a car. We can move and live in a different place. I can afford my own house separate from the family. Wonderful things, but we've now removed that extended family. The grandparents aren't living in the same house. It's now much more difficult to look after children than it was 100 years ago when the extended family lived in one house. I'm talking to people in Pakistan, and they still live like that. They've got family houses with 10 and 20 people in them, extended families, cousins, all sorts of things. Or they're not far away, they're in the same city. So, what we've done is we've created a culture where it's actually more difficult to look after children. If you can't get free childcare with grandparents and relatives, you're paying for it. We're now in a capitalist world where we want more things and the kids get more things. It costs something, I don't know the number in the US, is it something like $200,000 at least, ignoring college, to raise a child up to 16?
I said it in the before show, you're paying way too much if you're buying your kids for that price. I know a guy, I'll connect you afterwards. The cost, I've seen numbers around 200,000. I know that number is a bit wiggly because poor people don't have 200,000. They've never had 200,000. Even over the course of 20 years, they're not dropping 10,000 a year on their kids. Some of them are only making 15 or 20 in total. But yes, it is breathtakingly expensive.
But we can actually add to that the people that have got the most money are the ones that are having the least children. So what we've got is a social change that's resulting in less children. Different areas of the world, China in particular had the one-child policy. They now have an extremely big problem growing. If you look at a generation, and let's say all of the families only have one child per couple, in a generation of around 20 years or so, you might look at the total population and say, well, it's only gone down 10%, it's not too bad. But what you've actually done is the young women that are going to have babies in the next generation is now halved in 20 years. That's going to feed through into the system, and you're going to end up with a population with very few young reproducing people, because you're going to go to 50%, 25%, 12.5% in 60 years of reproducing families, with lots of old people from the past. Incredibly difficult to reverse unless you go and fix it quite soon.
And worth noting real quick, though, China did repeal their one-child policy and briefly replace it with a one child per individual, so 2 children, and it did not correct the birth rate. The birth
It's
rate
become a
remained.
cultural thing that as they get better off, they're becoming more industrialized. India is still growing, and they're in a different situation. So it's cultural that it's actually difficult and lots of work to look after children on your own, especially single parent families. So you'll get some people arguing, oh, we need families back. We need couples not breaking up. But it's much deeper than that. It's a whole social change of the extended family over the last 50 years looks utterly different in the modern West than it did 100 years ago, whatever.
So do you think having a robo nanny who is as capable as any human, smarter than any of the human teachers that the children have, do you think that would motivate people to have more kids? I have four. I have 4 boys. I have 4 boys myself. We would have had more kids if we could have afforded it, but the 4 we had were not just too much work, but just too expensive.
Yeah. What we've got is that children are expensive. I think many people still want children, but what they don't want is the bills, but they also don't want to lose the freedom. That social mobility, come and go how you want. There's so much to do in the world, in a modern world. Jump in the car, down the road, have a vacation, all sorts of different things. It's possible, and I hope, that if you had a robot nanny that would do all the physical work, and we've got an age of abundance that makes the products much cheaper to get, it might be much more like being a grandparent in the modern world, where you visit, you have the fun, but you haven't got to be up all night when they're ill.
Right. You don't have to be
The
up.
robots
Yeah.
don't do the waking up. Not necessarily ill, but perhaps just unsettled and not sleeping.
They'll get them.
Of course, you want to get up if they're ill.
They'll get them dressed in the morning. They'll make
Yeah.
sure their lunch is packed, that they're at the bus stop on time.
Mm.
And you can, if it's not going to, if you can still have your sleep and be a parent. uh, there was a documentary called The Queen of Versailles about the billionaire from the some timeshare company and his wife, and it followed them while they were building their house, but also going broke from the housing collapse, and
Yeah.
they had to let go a lot of their domestic staff. And the wife said, "If I knew how much work kids were, I never would have had this many."
Mm.
Right. Most people only know how much work it is, not how little
Yeah.
work it could be if you had
Yeah.
abundant help.
Perhaps maybe there are examples of billionaires with lots of money having lots of children. I don't know. Maybe we could think of somebody.
That's the thing is, and I want to wrap
Yeah.
up on this because we've gone long enough, is my big goal with this channel is to get big enough that I can quit and have Elon's twins. Is that too much to ask? He's done it for so many others. I'll just
Mm.
have twins with Elon. Is that unreasonable? I think with the Lord, all things are possible. So jot that down. And I think
Yeah, there's nothing new in the world. Monty Python had this discussion many years ago with one of them declaring he wanted to be a woman and have children.
Stan.
Uh,
Yeah.
A wonderful, a wonderful film.
Yeah. He could barely contain his laughter.
Yeah.
And neither could we. So we understood the feeling. Not the feeling of being a mother, but, you know, uh, all right. Now I'm hungry for albatross. Hey, guys, in the comments, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? How soon should I have John back? That's the main question. Jon Twigge is a wonderful resource and a lot of fun. And I will tell you that before the show starts, in between the shows we record, and after them, the conversation continues exactly like this. This is just how we hang out. We just figure if we're going to hang out and chat, we might as well record it and share the wisdom. But of course, we need to know what we missed and misunderstood. Subscribe, pretty please. It's my big ask for today. If you made it this far, it's the least you can do. So everybody else, stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you, clever robots, when you have a domestic Optimus nanny.
Always a pleasure, Brian. Thank you.